This video is about competitive intelligence. While your company may not have an office or a department of competitive intelligence, it probably does have an office for risk management. And in this case, competitive intelligence would be a part of risk management. So when we think of competitive intelligence, what do we think of? We are thinking of two things. Those two things are, how do we forecast what our competitors' future strategies are? And then how do we predict what our competitors' reactions will be to our strategic initiatives if we decide to move in to our competitors' territory? So the first thing is looking at what our competitor, how our competitor may react to our own initiatives. What is it that we would do? How would that competitor react? And the way that we do that is that we gather information about our competitor's current strategy. We look at management communication to understand where our competitor is going, what our competitor is doing, and how do we see that? We look at different trade publications. We look at magazines. We look at newspaper articles. We look at the internet. We can look at as well if our competitor is a public firm, we can look at our competitor's annual report, for example. We look at whether our competitors' objectives are financial objectives or if they are market share objectives. So how do we do that? We look at what has taken place in the past where the competitor has either lost money or has lost market share in the past, and then how did that competitor deal with it? How aggressive was the competitor dealing with that? So for our examples, we think of steel mills, we think of Toyota, for example, we think of how did the competitor react when there was a new competitor coming up and coming into that market, to the competitor's market. How aggressive were they in combating that competitor? So does our competitor concentrate on high-end products and therefore leave the low end? So leave that low end for the steel mills, for again, Toyota. When Toyota first started out, Toyota was not the premier car manufacturer. It came in at the low end and then built its way up. GM didn't care, because GM was doing what was concentrating on a larger, more well-developed product. And so GM was much more concerned with finances than they were with market share. If they had been more concerned with market share, perhaps they would have been a stronger aggressor against Toyota. So when we look at that low end, does the competitor leave room for another company to come in and basically produce, market, and sell a product that is a lower cost, but as well lower service? Are they able to appeal to the customer who believes he or she is actually being overserved, that we've got all of these services, we've got all of these attributes for this product, but the customer is really only looking for a few of those attributes? So again, that whole saying about why sell a Cadillac when a Volkswagen will do. Also look at the competitor's resources and capabilities, and what should we do? We should direct our initiative to our competitor's weakness. So when we think of resources, what are resources? Resources are productive assets that are owned by the firm. So they're tangible, intangible, human resources. We've got another video that will talk more about those resources. When we talk about capabilities, what are capabilities? Capabilities are what the firm can do better than other firms. So we look at the weakness of our competitor. What is that weakness? Is it innovation? Is it design? Is it marketing? Is it logistics? Is it culture? Is it employee turnover? Where can we get that information? How can we look at our help to analyze what our competitors' weaknesses are? How do we look at our competitors' value chain? Try to understand where is our competitor's greatest cost within that value chain. Is our competitor a cost leader, or is our competitor a differentiator? Understanding if our competitor is a cost leader or a differentiator will help us to understand how far will our competitor go to combat a particular incursion that we may make. When we look as well about understanding our competitor firm strategy, we've already mentioned looking at annual reports. Let's look at the corporate website. What does the CEO say? What does the CFO say? Where are they going? What is their mission statement? What is their vision statement? What's their scope? What are their markets? What are their geographies? What's their customer demographics? What are their adjacent markets, their adjacent demographics? How is the firm competing? Again, differentiation. Is it cost? What technology are they competing against? How can we find out there? When we look at how the customer or how the competitor is investing its money, look at the notes to the financial statements to understand where the customer is now investing its money. Look at the technologies that the customer or pardon me, the competitor is developing. So look at what patents have they received. When we look at the new products that the customer, the competitor, I keep saying customer, that the competitor is creating, where are those products? Which consumers are the competitors appealing to? Which direction are they going in? Again, look at the adjacencies there around those products. And so how can we understand as well what is perhaps the weakness of the competitors' products? Let's look at the ratings there. So if you have Amazon, or if you have anything where, look at the competitor's website to look at the number of stars, and the ones that you're particularly interested in are the 1 stars and the 2 stars, understanding which needs are not being met by the customer, by the competitor. And then as well, look at the C-suite. What new top management has been hired? Where has that top management been hired from? What was that top manager's expertise in the previous company that manager was hired from? What is the organizational structure like for the competitor? And then when we think of communication, we think of cooperation. How is the firm cooperating? What strategic alliances has the firm entered into, the competitor firm? What acquisitions has the competitor firm made? What mergers has the competitor firm made? When we look at deterrence, for example, we mentioned deterrence earlier. Deterrence is lawsuits. Deterrence is anything of how aggressive is the competitor against someone else who's coming in. When we look at signaling and commitment, we look at any type of propaganda that the company is looking at. We look at as well, what is the brand loyalty of the consumers of our competitors? Look at the advertising, which demographics is the competitor appealing to? Has that changed? Is it still the same demographic from an age standpoint, from a product standpoint, from a geography standpoint, or is that demographic shifting? When we look at changing the structure of the game, has the competitor entered into long-term contracts with suppliers? Does it have fewer suppliers than it used to have? When we look at the buyer's power, has the competitor instituted reward programs? What is the pricing like? Is the pricing trending up? Is the pricing trending down? What, again, is the advertising? Who are we appealing to? How do you get information about this? Buy stock. If the competitor is a publicly traded company, buy stock. Go to the stockholders meeting, look at the ratings again of the products, and understand what the competitor is not doing as well as he or she could do. So that is part of our competitive intelligence, which folds into, or may fold into in your company, into risk management.